Hello again. This lecture is on ferns and fern toxicity. Uh, People do eat ferns. Yes, I have myself eaten ferns in Hawaii. And there are hundreds of species of ferns and hundreds of varieties. And a few of them are safe to eat, but most are not. And I will tell you why. To stay alive, I would avoid all but the perhaps professionally done ones, for example in Hawaii, where they're called Pohole or Ho'io, and I ate them at Volcano House at a gourmet restaurant there. I believe they were cooked, but they were in a salad. I ate many of the fiddleheads. Many people do try to eat fiddleheads, but most of the ferns, or almost all of the ferns, do produce fiddleheads when they're growing, but most of them are toxic. Even though they look like fiddleheads, all fiddleheads are not alike. And only certain ones, such as the ones in Hawaii, may be cultivated and non-toxic, especially if they're cooked. Now I noticed the recipes for Pohole and Ho'io call for 1 minute of high temperature boiling water, then immediately immerse in an ice bath to stop the cooking process and keep them crisp. But this heat may actually diminish or remove the heat labile toxins that I will talk about in a minute. Now this is British Columbia, Canada, and this is a fern grotto, fern forest in the rainforest. All of these ferns are actually toxic, so please do not eat the fiddleheads. You can see the ferns behind me here, and I would not eat these. They are toxic in many ways, and in fact, with all the toxins involved in these ferns, I'm surprised that they're not considered one of the most toxic plants there is. So keep your pets away from them, keep your children away from them, and please don't eat them yourself. Even at the fiddlehead stage, many recipes on the internet and advice to eat fiddleheads, but these ones are the ones to avoid. There are specially cultivated ones, for example in Hawaii, as I said, the Pohole and the Ho'io apparently are, if cooked, non-toxic or decreased toxicity. Again, I would be careful because they could be mixed up and they could have not been experimented on properly. Now, better be safe than sorry. Do not eat, especially these ones. Like I say, I did eat them. I survived. I did not get sick. And that is part of the story. So that was from Hawaii. The Pohole fern, which early stages have the fiddleheads. The fiddleheads were cooked. I ate them in a salad. Interestingly, the Pohole also means the foreskin. So the human foreskin or animal foreskin, because on the fiddlehead the skin does peel back, especially when they're blanched, and it's kind of like a foreskin. So the same name in Hawaiian for fiddlehead, edible, versus human foreskin of the penis, let's say. Okay. Okay, as far as toxicity, okay, these ones here behind me, they do contain hydrocyanic acid, cyanic glycosides that produce hydrogen cyanide and cyanide toxicity if ingested or eaten. or if they're broken, they can release hydrogen cyanide gas into the air on touching, etc. So I'd be even careful, especially if the branches are broken and they're oozing the sap, which is often white in color. I would be careful with that. Now the second toxin is cyanoglycosides, which again produce the hydrogen cyanide and the cyanide toxicity. Cyanide inhibits the production of ATP and NADH2 through Krebs cycle, the tricarboxylic acid cycle. So it basically inhibits aerobic metabolism, and that's how it causes death. So it switches the body from aerobic metabolism using oxygen to anaerobic metabolism, which the body cannot survive on for very long. So death will ensue if it's severe. The third one is saponins, which are toxic, and multiple toxicity from these. The fourth one is thiaminase, as we discussed, for example, from horsetail. The thiaminase cleaves the thiamine and gets rid of the essential B1 vitamin that is required for the body to maintain its metabolic processes. So an essential vitamin, it gets rid of that and causes a disease called beriberi if exposure to the thiaminase is continued over a period of time. Now I do note all parts of the plant are toxic and contain those toxins, but especially the spores are the most toxic, and sometimes just handling the spores, we'll see, okay, there's no spores, they're on the underside, no spores there yet. No, it's too early in the season for the plant to sporulate. So there's no spores yet, and but again, the ingestion of the spores are the most toxic part of the plant, and sometimes even touching or inhaling the spores could produce illness and toxicity. Okay, there's 400 types of ferns, and each one has a various toxicity. Again, there are very few that are non-toxic. Such as those ones in Hawaii that I mentioned. Okay, long-term use of ferns, especially due to thiaminase toxicity, will lead to anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, abdominal cramps, liver toxicity, so eventually hepatitis and cirrhosis. You would turn yellow or orange, your urine would turn orange, yellow, or brown, and your abdomen would swell up. You'd have pain in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen, etc. So that's liver toxicity, end up with cirrhosis or carcinoma of the liver. And the third thing was beriberi, which is a thiamine deficiency, long-term thiamine deficiency, and causes neurological problems, cardiac problems, and finally death if you get enough of it. Cardiac arrest, the final result, and obviously that is usually fatal. Okay, again, the fiddleheads may be cooked only in certain cases. Some people do cook the fiddleheads to get rid of the toxin, such as in Hawaii. All ferns do have fiddleheads, but only a few of them are non-toxic, such as the ones I mentioned in Hawaii. And again, the Hawaiians call them pohole or ho'io, and those are the excuse me, non-toxic ferns. So, if you want to stay safe, stay alive, do not eat ferns, unless you're at a gourmet restaurant in volcano, Hawaii, then it seems to be safe and I survived. Mine, I'm not sure if I would do it again, but knowing what I know now about ferns and mix-ups, etc. So anyway, here's the fern grotto, the fern forest in this rainforest of British Columbia, Canada. And as you can see, this whole forest is covered in ferns on the forest floor. I love the moisture and the shade of the coniferous trees, mainly hemlock in this area. Actually, I only see hemlock in this area. Again, not the poison hemlock that killed Socrates, but the hemlock coniferous tree, the evergreen tree that grows in the rainforest in this area. Okay, again, ferns, most of them are deadly poisonous. Stay away from them if you can. Touching them is okay, usually, unless you're allergic to them, which I'm not, or unless you get too many spores on your hands or inhale the spores. And again, at the present time, these are not sporulating, so I seem to be pretty safe at the moment. Okay, end of lecture on ferns. Stay safe, have a good life, and enjoy the rest of your diet. Again, the main advice is get your food from a certified source that is certified to be safe and non-toxic. And if they're selling fiddleheads, I would beware. Or if someone offers you fiddleheads, I would again beware. Okay, thank you. Talk to you soon. Over and out.